Okay, so this is a bit of a different video than you may be used to on this channel because usually whenever I would do a full screen webcam type of video where I was just talking to the camera, my webcam's quality would always look like dog when it's expanded to the full screen, which I never quite understood. And I'm sure if I looked into it more, I could figure out how to fix that. It's not like it's a bad webcam or anything. I have pretty good lighting, I think. So just to bypass that, we're going to be in the small window over here in the corner while we have the Xbox developer underscore direct playing in front of you all because it's what I wanted to talk about. Not necessarily the developer underscore direct itself, but Xbox. And it really did spark because of this developer underscore direct where it was here, where it really felt like for the first time, maybe dare I say it, since the 360 era, it feels like Xbox is really poised to come out on top this year. And perhaps that 2025 is going to be that inflection point where people are starting to take notice to Xbox in a different way where people would look at Xbox now and they're like, well, yeah, they're in last place, they're in third place, whatever, what have you. They're like, I'll just play it on PC, I'll just play my PlayStation games, and all of that thing is just sort of leaving Xbox to the wayside because there's like it's also there. But with this showcase recently, it really seems like 2025 is going to be the year where everything lines up just right for Xbox to the point where everyone is going to take notice wherever you play. Whether you play on PC, of course, you will always get those games day and date. And if you play on PlayStation, you are also starting to take notice because just because it's an Xbox game, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stay on Xbox. And I feel like there's been a perfect storm of PlayStation dropping the ball and Xbox really starting to find their flow when it comes to Game Pass and all of their studios really starting to get their games coming out where it's very possible that 2025 may be the start of Xbox's new reign, if you will. I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to start selling more consoles than PlayStation anytime soon. God, no. Far from that. In fact, don't even think about that. That's definitely not going to happen. I more so what I see happening more so than that is that in terms of the games industry and how volatile it has been lately, I feel like Xbox is primed for success more so than PlayStation. Because yes, like I said, people aren't going to start selling their PS5s because as is well documented, Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, president of Xbox, no, CEO of Xbox, the top dog over at Xbox, he has frequently said that Xbox lost the most important generation of the Xbox One PS4 generation, in which is the one where people started building their digital libraries. So people started buying digital games on PS4, which would carry over to PS5. So those PS4 players aren't very well inclined to go over to an Xbox console because they don't have their digital library anymore. All of that to say, I don't expect people to switch over to Xbox, but rather start buying Xbox games or start buying into Xbox Game Pass because if you are on PC, of course you can get Xbox Game Pass. Although there it's called PC Game Pass. I feel like they're gonna change it at some point because Xbox Game Pass is sort of its whole thing. They're probably gonna rebrand PC Game Pass at some point to just Xbox Game Pass, but that's besides the point. When you look at how volatile the games industry has been lately with numerous studio closures and studio layoffs, of course, Xbox isn't exempt from that. They've also had their own layoffs because of the acquisitions they've made and led into finding many redundancies within the corporation, which is just, that is the business, unfortunately. When you look at how pretty much every publisher out there is suffering from layoffs in one form or another, you can't help but look at how Xbox Game Pass has existed and is existing in a way that allows Microsoft as a corporation to continually get cash flow in, as opposed to a company like EA really pinning a lot of their hopes and dreams on Dragon Age the Veilguard, even though they didn't really market it as if they wanted it to sell 3 million copies. But, that's neither here nor there. When when a game like Dragon Age: The Veilguard falls short of expectations, it resulted in a lot of layoffs for BioWare. Whereas over on the Xbox side, a game doesn't have to sell to be considered successful. Of course, that is always helpful, but of course, Xbox's model is the Game Pass subscription thing. So it doesn't matter it doesn't matter how many units a game would sell on Xbox. Like we have Avowed coming very very soon, and Xbox, I can't imagine, is looking to see how many millions of copies that sells, because honestly I don't think it will sell millions at all, because it's on Game Pass and that's how I'll be playing it and that's how millions of others will be playing it. But with those millions of people who play Avowed, they will be signing up for an Xbox Game Pass membership, which will give the corporation of Microsoft more money and it'll make their bottom line look better. And in an ideal case, those subscriptions would last all throughout the year. And when you look at the slate of 2025 games on the Xbox side, it makes a very compelling argument for everyone to be subscribed, at least for majority of the year. When you have games like Ninja Gaiden 4, which is on the screen right now, and games like, what do we have here? South of Midnight going to come out in April, as well as Clair Obscur. Where is that one? Expedition 33 also coming out in April, which kind of crazy. They should probably switch those months so that people pay for 2 months instead of one. But I'm not here to do their jobs for them. But when you look at how many games are coming out of Xbox this year and how many of them are going to be on Xbox Game Pass, it's just like, well, that makes a very compelling argument for you to stay subscribed for the entire year, which is their whole goal, to get you in the door for Game Pass and keep paying for it. So that they keep getting more money all throughout the year, which is all what this is all about. Because at the end of the day, the games industry is a business, and Microsoft is poised to be making a lot of money out of it with Game Pass and the consistency of all of these games releasing. And that's not even the end of it, because what Xbox has also begun to do, and it is a very controversial topic, they've begun bringing their games to other platforms, whether it be the Nintendo Switch or the PS5. Because guess what? Game Pass doesn't exist on those platforms. So people are going to buy them. So when you have a game as highly anticipated as Doom the Dark Ages here coming out on Xbox Game Pass, that's going to draw in so many subscribers to the service, whether they be on PC or on Xbox. With a game like Forza Horizon 5 just being recently announced for PS5, which is a crazy announcement because Forza for the longest time has been considered one of the crowning jewels of Xbox, one of the few games that Xbox actually had for the longest time coming to PlayStation. And there have been so many people who are very, very much against this, whether it be Forza, whether it be Pentiment, Grounded, or any of those other ones that have already moved to PS5. People have voiced their concerns. And I guess I get that. Except I'm saying that, and I honestly don't. I don't get that concern. You've already had that game, you played it, it's going to another platform after the fact. That's great. It's great news if you ask me. One of the one of the bigger rumors that is going around these days is that Gears of War and Halo the Master Chief Collection, or just Halo in general, Gears in general, are going to be next to make their way to the PlayStation platform. And again, fine, that's great. Those are the old games. It's not like it's going to be Halo 6 that's coming out on PS5. And even then, would that be so terrible? Because here's the thing. I don't really have an issue with these Xbox games going to PS5 because, like I said, the Xbox gamers get to experience all these games for essentially free. If you, of course, it is with the subscription, so it's not actually free, but you know what I mean. It kind of feels free when it's included in Game Pass. That's how I feel, at least. I don't know if everyone feels that way, but that's how I feel. When these games are all on Game Pass, you don't have to spend $70 every time for all of these games, of which there seem to be so many. Because in 2025 alone, Xbox is seemingly releasing Ninja Gaiden 4. They are publishing that. Doom: The Dark Ages, South of Midnight, Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Of course, that's not published by Xbox, but it is on Game Pass, so we're going to include it. Scheduled this year is Fable as well, and I'm sure there's other games that I just can't think of right off the top of my head. But even if you just added those up all on their own, that's like at least $200, maybe even $300. I didn't really do the math in my head, but it's a lot of games that Xbox are releasing these days because they have so many studios through acquisitions and what have you. So as an Xbox player, or even these days a PC player, just getting Xbox Game Pass gets you those games. And that's great. What's the issue if people on PlayStation gets them too? My only issue would be if another rumor that's been going around is that Fable is going to be day and date Xbox PC and PS5. That is the one thing that I do take slight concern with, because I still feel like at the end of the day, let me back this up. Because I still feel like at the end of the day, an Xbox game should be on Xbox first. If Fable, a historic Xbox franchise, released day and date on PS5, I don't know how I would feel about that. I would feel a type of way. I'd feel weird about it. But that's only because from where I see it, an Xbox game should still release on Xbox first, but if it came to PlayStation later, that's fine. That's fine with me. Because the way I look at it is a game like Indiana Jones, for example, takes what, 5 years to develop? When was Youngblood? Was that 2019, 2020? Either way, it took quite some time for Indiana Jones to come out. And now it has come out on Xbox and PC and will be coming to PS5 later this year at some point. I think it's in spring. We haven't heard from that just yet, though. Um, the way I see it is that over at Machine Games, they were working on the Xbox version and the PC version, and those were able to come out in December. And now they're working on the PS5 port as opposed to working on it all at once and trying to get a synchronous, trying to sync up those release dates for all the platforms, and then the entire game would end up getting delayed into spring of 2025. That's the way I look at it. I feel like, hey, if you develop this game for Xbox first, then it'll have that exclusive period on Xbox where, because you were developing it for Xbox first, so that it would be performing the best on Xbox as opposed to PS5. But of course, you port it to PS5 eventually because you do get another sales boost from porting it to PS5 because there's no Game Pass there, like we've mentioned. So it becomes a $70 title over there. And in the case of Indiana Jones, great reviews. People love that game. I love that game. So the players on PlayStation 5 are going to be inclined to pay the $70 to play it. And then guess what? Then another little boost of money there. You know, so it's just so it makes it so that Xbox as a corporation is always making money all throughout the year. And that's the goal, whether it be through Xbox Game Pass subscriptions. The way I see it, if I were a betting man, Xbox Game Pass is going to be all throughout the year, but they're going to have new titles all throughout the year, of course. But on those months that have a little bit of a lull where, like, I think this month or this year rather, we don't have a game releasing on Game Pass in March, if I am correct on that. I can't think of anything releasing in March on Game Pass. I wouldn't be surprised if Indiana Jones and the Great Circle releases on PS5 in March to supplement their sales numbers for March, you know? And then the money they make off of the sales of Indiana Jones on PS5 that month will be like, look at that. Look at the money we earned for Team Xbox. We earned that money. Look at us, Microsoft. Aren't you happy with us? And then in April, we have South of Midnight and Clair Obscur Expedition 33, as you can see there. And so people are going to be like, oh, let me resubscribe to Game Pass. Or maybe they have already left their Game Pass subscription open so there's more money coming in there, and it's just this never-ending cycle, which is the goal. That's the dream, to always have money coming in, whether it be from Game Pass or individual sales that come from ported games to PS5. Although once now that I'm talking about it out loud and actually like thinking about it, releasing all of their games day and date on PS5, that would work too. Actually, I've turned around on that. Look at how that happened. Because I'm thinking about Doom: The Dark Ages. That's a big game everyone's excited about, and the most people who'd want to play it are gonna show up day one. And if you can play it day one on PS5, great. 3 million people will buy it on PS5. Everyone else will play it on PC Game Pass or Xbox Game Pass, but there's still those 3 million sales on PS5. And that's great because guess what? People are going to be subscribing to Game Pass for Doom: The Dark Ages. And if they don't have a way to subscribe to Game Pass, they'll buy the game. It all makes too much sense, and I don't understand how people aren't on board for this. Excuse my barking dog. I don't know if you can hear that. But all in all, is to say that Xbox is in a really good position with their output this year alone. And when their output looks this good for this year, I can only imagine what their output will look like for next year with games like Perfect Dark or, at some point, I mean, it's probably not next year, but at some point, there's going to be The Elder Scrolls 6. At some point, there's going to be new Fallout games, whether it be spin offs or the mainline one. It won't be the mainline one. There'll be new games from all these beloved franchises. Like Fable is supposed to be this year, but Gears of War E Day is supposed to be next year. But they got a lot of games going. They've got games in development that we know of, games in development we don't know of, rumors here and there about an Oblivion remake. It's just, if you have an Xbox, you are in a very good position to play all of these games. And if you have a PS5, you're also in a good position to play all of these games. And if you just play video games, you're in a great position because you can play them wherever you want. And as long as people play games, whether it is on Game Pass or they buy it, these games will continue to be made, which is not as guaranteed as it used to be in today's market, where, like I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned it earlier because I'll be honest, I've had so many false starts with this technical difficulties and what have you. Where a game like Dragon Age the Veilguard falls short of expectations, and then BioWare gets half their staff laid off, and it kind of makes you worry about Mass Effect 5 because it's a much smaller staff now. With the right cadence of game releases that people are looking forward to and want to play, whether it be on PS5 or on Game Pass, Xbox is poised to be in a good place with their money, I guess. That's what it comes down to, with their money. Because when you look on the other side, all of these Xbox wins, if you'll call them wins, all of these projected wins, we'll call them, that Xbox is having this year, it comes off of the back of quite a few failings on Sony's side, on PlayStation side, which makes it this inflection point. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier as well either, where 2025 might be the year where Xbox gains a lot of ground against PlayStation. Not necessarily in console sales, of course, we've gone over that, but in people's mind, Xbox will be seen in a much much better light by the end of this year than I would say PlayStation, possibly. Although, of course, we're coming off of a rather down year for PlayStation, so all it would really take is like one great state of play before people are like, "Oh, PlayStation's on top." But with games like Concord coming out and then 2 weeks later being taken off the market, or The Last of Us Factions just being canceled outright, or Fair Games, who knows what's going on with Fair Games? You don't even remember what Fair Games was, I bet. With all of those games being what PlayStation kind of has on the tip of their tongue right now, if you if you want to call it that, with those being the games that PlayStation has had in recent memory or didn't have in some case, it makes it seem like they aren't doing anything, which makes people look at Xbox and be like, "Wow, they have Doom, they have South of Midnight, they have Ninja Gaiden, they have Fable, Gears of War, Perfect Dark. Wow, look at all these games that Xbox has. Where are the games, PlayStation?" Because yeah, where are they? We have Ghost of Sushi or Ghost of Yote later this year, but beyond that, I don't know if Wolverine will be this year. Who knows? So, depending on how PlayStation's 2025 goes, this very much could be the best time for Xbox to really make a
Ooh, I'm
name for
about to make a name
themselves
for myself
in
here.
this current market. Because yeah, if they have all of these games coming out this year and PlayStation has Ghost of Yote, I'm sure Ghost of Yote will be amazing. Don't get me wrong. But if that's it, and then Xbox has all of these, it could be enough to change the tide to make for a pretty interesting 2026. But who knows if we'll make it that far as a society, quite honestly. And I rambled for a lot longer than I anticipated I would. I thought this would be like maybe like a 12-minute video. It's like twice that, depending on how I edited it. Edited it. Edited it. But yeah, all of this to say, Xbox is looking great. And I'm hopeful. I am so hopeful because I've been Team Xbox since the 360 days, and I had an Xbox One. I lived through those days. I made it. I lived, and now I lived through the Xbox has no game cycle, and now there's too many games to count. I didn't even talk about the Call of Duty of it all. How every November, October, here's $1 billion Xbox. At least. I don't know how much money Call of Duty makes. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna keep going because I forgot about the whole live service thing that Xbox has going on beyond just Game Pass. When you take into account the Call of Duty sales and then the microtransactions throughout the year, you can throw in Overwatch as well. You can throw in Diablo as well. Throw in Sea of Thieves. Xbox has live service games in some regard that are lasting more than 2 weeks and are keeping players throughout the entire year in a lot of cases. So yeah, all in all, Xbox is making a lot of money nowadays. Are they should be making a lot of money nowadays. For as much money as they spend on all of these acquisitions and getting to the point where they are now with Game Pass, it really feels like it's all going to pay off this year. And I hope it does. I hope it does. I'd be very excited to see that. But yeah, that's it. Like I said, this was a lot longer than I anticipated, but it was a conversation worth having, I think. Uh, all in all, shout out to Xbox. You guys are really, really figuring it out. Oh my god, I just thought of another talking point. We're gonna go for another 2 minutes at least. And my last talking point, I swear, it's the last talking point, probably. That just came to my head is the fact that these games have been taking longer and longer to make, not necessarily South of Midnight. I think that did have a relatively long development cycle as well. But when you look at some of the games over on the PlayStation side, like God of War or Spider-Man 2 or Wolverine, where's Wolverine? Like I said, you'll notice that they have like extensive development cycles and they just keep getting more and more realistic and more bombastic and just more cutting edge. And as awesome as that is as a video game experience, it also becomes way more expensive to develop. And with consumers demanding even better graphics than the last game every time, there's never a point where people are just like, and this is it, you can stop here. Graphics have hit the peak of graphics. You can stop developing it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's never like that. It never happens. People always want it to look better. People looked at Spider-Man 2 and some people were like, this doesn't even look that much better. And people were complaining about like reused animations and stuff like that. Even though it still costs a hell of a lot of money to make. But people will be like, it always needs to look better, it needs to play better, this, that, and the other, which will only result in these games development costs to go up and be higher and higher. And then after some point, it just doesn't become very realistic to sell them for $70 because how are you ever going to make back $300 million on a $70 product? You know what I mean? Even if you sold millions and millions of copies, you'd have to sell millions and millions of copies. You know, you'd have to really every game you made would have to sell like 5 million, 10 million copies, which I mean, I'm sure PlayStation has done that, but that puts a lot of pressure on a lot of people to say, "Oh yeah, this game has to sell 10 million copies, otherwise it won't break even." That's not a very sustainable system. But when you look at how Xbox has had these live service games like Sea of Thieves, or how they've acquired live service games like Diablo or Call of Duty, and how Game Pass essentially is a live payment service for Xbox, I guess, if you want to call it that. There's always that inflow of money, that flow of money coming in that offsets game development costs ideally. Of course, I don't know the actual numbers that Microsoft and Xbox are working with, but that's the idea at least. Whereas PlayStation, Helldivers, resounding success, the biggest success they've seen, I think, this generation, honestly. Um, but then you also have Concord, which kind of honestly just made it break even when you look at how long that was in development and how much resources they put into that and how much money they spent on that. And they really marketed the hell out of Concord. It was everywhere just for it to not exist 2 weeks later. I still have my copy. I actually had it right next to me. That's kind of crazy. I still have my copy of Concord. Uh, so I wasn't the problem. But yeah, when PlayStation isn't getting these games, these live service games off the ground in a way that will sustain their Ghost of Tsushima or Ghost of Yotes, their God of Wars, their Interstellars. No, that's Christopher Nolan. Intergalactic. These big budget games that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, it kind of makes their business model look a little concerning in the long run. Where it's just like after in the next 10 years, I don't know where PlayStation will be. Whereas in the next 10 years of Xbox, I could very well see them having a new console. Well, PlayStation will have PS6. Don't worry about that. Where let me put more B-roll up. Where in the next 10 years of Xbox, I could very well see them branching out to having like a portable handheld system or having just a number of ways to play Xbox because their whole marketing thing lately has been this is an Xbox. This is an Xbox. Your PlayStation, that's not an Xbox. But this is an Xbox. Your phone's an Xbox, your laptop's an Xbox, everything you own is an Xbox. You can play Xbox on that. If you can get Xbox Game Pass on it, it's an Xbox. And that helps Xbox. I've said Xbox so many times. That helps them because if Game Pass exists on that platform, whether it is a Steam Deck, I don't think a Steam Deck has it, but a ROG Ally or any of those other portable PCs that are coming out, or someday their own Xbox portable. If it has Game Pass, that's a win for them because you'll be in their ecosystem, paying monthly for Game Pass and enjoying their games and feeding into the beast, you know? Whereas PlayStation, they'll have PS6. They won't have PSVR 3 because PSVR 2, not great. Wasn't very good for them this generation. But beyond that, PS6, they'll have probably The Last of Us Part 3, Spider-Man 3, Wolverine 2, probably. I don't know. They'll have they'll have sequels to games, which is, they did that already. You know? And I don't know if I'm selling PlayStation short or not, but it just seems harder to see a future where they branch out beyond just the console and exclusive system that they've done for the past 5 generations and has worked so well for them. I don't want to, like say that what they're doing is wrong. I just don't know if it will stand the test of time. Of course, the only way to find out is by waiting. And I have to end this video because I kept going. I just kept on yapping and yapping. But yeah, I think Xbox is in a really good position. All of this to say Xbox is in a really good position. So don't fuck up, okay? You have so much going for you right now in a moment where PlayStation doesn't have much going on. So you gotta do it, Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, overall, Xbox's future is looking bright. I don't even want to necessarily say that that PlayStation's future isn't looking bright. It's so much more that I just want to say that Xbox looks like their future is extremely bright, and I hope it is because when they win, I mean we all win. Let's face it, because they own like half the game companies. But yeah, that's it. I'll end it right here. I'm sure it's kind of an abrupt ending, but I just gotta keep it moving. You got other things to do today, I'm sure. So do I. So until the next video, as always, I guess play Monster Hunter. They're just advertising Monster Hunter right now. Stay safe and play some video games.